are on.
Simo wanted to shout out Jeremy McGovern. We haven't spoken about that, Jesse. One of the best sort of game-changing intercept defenders. Like, he seemed like a player that when he hit his prime, and you can speak on it more, but he really changed the game. So, yeah, terrible to see Jeremy McGovern's career end early due to injury. What do you make of it?
I remember when he was drafted, he was this fat kid from Albany, and everyone was like, this is the most rogue rookie selection ever. It might have even been like rookie 3, that selection, 44, I want to say. Completely plucked that number. But I think everyone was like, oh, this is weird. And then he, plied his trade in the waffle for Claremont before the alignment. Then he showed up to a preseason, again, like massively out of shape. And I think it was Woosha back then basically banished him from the club and told him to get fit. And then I reckon within a few seasons, I think he debuted 2014, and by 2015 he was very close to evolving into the player that he would eventually become because we played in the grand final. Eric McKenzie and Mitch Brown do their ACLs. He finds a way into the team, drafted as a ruck forward, then he plays as a defender.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was he really?
Yeah. I can't remember if he debuted forward. I think he might have against Gold Coast 2014, but then sort of settled down back. He's always a little bit short to play ruck. 195. And I think drafted at 190, funnily enough.
He's one of those players that, like, you spoke about it there, like, doesn't have the physical attributes necessarily, like athleticism. Like, he was just a genuinely good footballer, like a very highly talented footballer. Why do you think the way that he played revolutionized intercept defending and that type of thing?
Well, actually, it's testing my memory as to whether it did. I don't dispute it, but I think that back in the day, defending was a lot more back shoulder one-on-one. And then I think McGovern was a part of at least the first wave of players who sort of played in a zone. And the West Coast in 2015 had that thing where they had no tall defenders or no recognised tall defenders. So everyone played slightly off their man as a web. They called it the Weagle's web. And it just sort of suited McGovern's game style to just be able to fly from the side and take these amazing intercept marks. And he did it. Well, I mean, he's the reigning All-Australian centre-half back.
Yeah,
he's been extremely consistent.
Year.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. He's
I think
one of
the
the
West
goats.
Coast did particularly well with that because I remember you had similar zone-type defences previous to that, like the Clarko cluster or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Before that, but you guys really turned it into like a major offensive weapon. I feel like with McGovern, like he was so loose.
Was it prior to 666 where he was almost like the spare man in defence all the time?
Yeah, it would have been.
When did 666 come in?
I reckon either 19 or 20 because I think some people suggest that was a part of the reason West Coast fell off initially.
Yeah. JD in the chat says the goal after the siren against Port Adelaide in 2018 was awesome. Obviously took that intercept mark on grand final day that slung shot you to a flag. So, yeah, champion of the game, even though he's a West Coast player.
I'm actually going to slightly disagree too with the fact that he's not athletic. I reckon he's a player that looks unathletic, but actually is athletic.
Yeah. I was going to let that slide, but I agree that he doesn't look like an athlete. But I think if you watch how quick he actually is for a big man, and he's actually a pretty good
aerialist.
A field kick too. For a 195, he's actually like a leading meters game player, I think, for a while there. So, I was gonna let it slide, but yeah, he just doesn't look athletic.
Well, no, I know what Druzy was coming from. Though.
Yeah, he's not like your typical key position draftees now. Right?
Yeah,
definitely not that kind of athlete, but certainly not lumbering.
I just like that comparison, like speaking about that sort of preseason where he showed up. I think he was in Bali or something.
Phuket?
Yeah, Thailand.
Yeah.
And just showed up out of shape. And like Nikola Jokic in the NBA is a player that just does not look like an athlete, but he's one of the best players in the world, if not the best player in the world. It's just interesting that you have these players, and maybe I'm not giving McGovern enough credit for his athleticism, but just on talent alone, they can.
It's similar with Mahomes, right?
I haven't watched as much NFL, but
it's like sort of I know it's a different game, obviously less running and stuff like that, but just not really like bit of a dad bod going on, but just like serious power. I feel like
another story to come out of West Coast this week, Jesse, is Oscar Allen being wrapped up in bubble wrap, says Spades. What are your thoughts on that?
An elaborate prank by his teammates.
Not again.
I can only speculate as to whether his injury has ruled him out for the year. I'm inclined to, I don't think they have ruled it out. They said medium term. I think everyone's concluding he's probably not coming back.
Was the first thing that they said, right?
No idea what that is. It sounds like something you'd find in a greenhouse or something. It's the Latin name for a plant. But look, I think any team in our position, regardless of whether we got a player who might leave or not, would have their captain probably not just come back for the last 2 weeks and play. So if it's a case of it being line ball for him to be, playing in the last few weeks, it probably just makes sense regardless of the potential move to not play him, if that makes sense.
Do you feel like he's been over this journey? I feel a bit sorry for him. Just how everything's gone down. The secret meeting. Butters is just on fire here. Won the centre clearance, got on the end of this inside 50.
There's oil in it.
But yeah, I just feel like he's been so unfairly treated. Like the fans are a bit against him now. It feels like he had to come out and do that press conference and everything, and he's sort of he has been pushed out of the club, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's somewhat. I think West Coast have set their price of what they're willing to pay, which I think is fair enough. And I think you've sort of expressed that, or maybe not. But
I'm not criticising West Coast. I'm not criticising. I'm just saying I feel sorry for him.
Yeah, I agree. So I don't know if I would go as far as to say West Coast mistreating him. It's hard. There's just a big gap between what Brisbane is willing to offer and what Allen is. What Allen is getting from West Coast.
Bang! Butters kicks the first of the game for Port Adelaide.
Nice.
First of the goal.
The whole thing was undoubtedly a shit show. The apology that he did was unnecessary. I would have just let it slide. But the fact of the matter is, we've got a media like the West Australian in Perth is just nutty. Like they'll go to any lengths to, blow up the story out of nowhere. West Coast also is we're very proud and loyal fans, and we expect loyalty. We don't lose a lot of players. It was a huge deal when Judd left. It would have been big for any club to lose Judd, but it's just a big deal when we lose a player. Willie Rioli wasn't treated well by fans when he left. So all of that is a factor. I do feel genuine sympathy for the guy. I want him to come good. I wouldn't begrudge him leaving if it's the best for his career. I don't think West Coast has done much wrong by not offering or matching a deal that Brisbane is offering, because I think that's something we've been criticised for doing in the past.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I would love him to leave, if at all, on good terms with us.
Can you just say that Allen leaves confidently? Has he played his last game for West Coast?
It's entirely possible, yeah. I'd probably say it's a 70% chance. I think the only change, what could change is Brisbane's interest cooling.
Yeah,
and
with
if
Logan
the gap,
Morris.
Yeah, if the
Do you
gap
think
between...
they would have already set all of this up, though? Would they have already agreed in at least handshake terms?
Possibly, but I suppose what would it take for a club to go back on that? Terrible year of form and injury, because we're probably at that point. So I think if Brisbane remains as interested as they are and West Coast are unwilling to throw some more money at Allen, then it's just going to stay the same situation as it is right now.
Yep.
Is my prediction.
I don't blame West Coast. I mean, where you are on the ladder at the moment, you don't always get that opportunity to get that sort of compensation as well.
Yeah, I definitely think that's part of West Coast's strategy here, if you want to call it a strategy, but it's certainly part of their thinking. It'll be interesting to see if, Brisbane's offer is only enough to generate band 2, because then we're looking at pick 20, and I think that probably does change the equation. I think West Coast would then match. Force to trade, or, Allen would stay in that instance.
Who would Allen push out of the Brisbane side?
He would push out Sam Day, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Sam Day's, he's a year older than me, I reckon. He was an inaugural.
I think they would.
Suns player.
And correct me if I'm wrong here, but they would just run with Hipwood, Allen, Morris
Yeah.
as the 3.
Which I think can work as a 3.